8:20, and Café Rue was buzzing. The air was thick with the aroma of garlic, butter, and anticipation. Located on a charming corner in Greenwich Village, Café Rue was a beloved institution, a place where locals and tourists alike came for authentic French cuisine and a taste of old New York. Tonight, however, a different kind of spice hung in the air: worry. Chef Jean-Luc, the heart and soul of Café Rue, was missing. Jean-Luc wasn't just any chef, he was an artist. Every movement in the kitchen was a brushstroke, every plate a canvas. His presence radiated a quiet confidence, and those who watched him work could sense the depth of his devotion to his craft. He poured his heart and soul into every dish, his passion evident in every perfectly seared scallop and artfully arranged sprig of thyme. Each ingredient was chosen with care, each flavor balanced with precision. For Jean-Luc, cooking was not just a job. It was a calling, a way to communicate love, memory, and tradition to every guest who sat at his table. Originally from Lyon, France, he'd arrived in New York City 2 decades ago with nothing but a well-worn cookbook and a head full of dreams. The city was overwhelming, but Jean-Luc saw it as a place of endless opportunity. He carried with him the flavors of his childhood, the lessons of his grandmother's kitchen, and a relentless determination to make his mark. He'd worked his way up from dishwasher to sous chef to finally, the head chef and owner of Café Rue. The journey was anything but easy. Long nights, burned fingers, and moments of doubt, but Jean-Luc never wavered. He learned from every challenge, growing stronger and more skilled with each passing year. He was a man of few words, more comfortable expressing himself through the language of food than through lengthy conversations. In the kitchen, his silence spoke volumes. He communicated with a nod, a glance, or the gentle correction of a technique, earning the respect and admiration of his team. But his silence wasn't coldness. It was focus, intensity, a deep respect for the craft that had become his life. Every dish he created was a testament to his journey, a blend of French tradition and New York ambition, seasoned with humility and an unwavering pursuit of excellence. Unbeknownst to most, Jean-Luc carried a secret, a legacy passed down through generations, a recipe for a sauce so exquisite, so transcendent, it was whispered to be the stuff of legends. This was not merely a culinary creation, but a living memory, a thread connecting him to ancestors he'd never met, each of whom had added their own subtle touch to the recipe over the decades. The sauce was more than a dish, it was a story, a testament to resilience, love, and the quiet pride of a family who had weathered wars, migrations, and heartbreak, all while preserving this one precious secret. This wasn't just any sauce, it was a symphony of flavors, a closely guarded family secret that had never been written down until now. Each ingredient was chosen with care, each spice measured by instinct rather than by scale, and every simmering pot filled the kitchen with an aroma that seemed to wrap the room in nostalgia. The process was almost ritualistic, a dance of memory and intuition, and Jean-Luc guarded it fiercely, knowing that its magic could not be replicated by anyone who didn't understand its history. Jean-Luc, fearing its loss, had finally transcribed the recipe into an old, leather-bound notebook he kept tucked away in his apartment. The pages were already stained with oil and sauce, the ink smudged in places by hurried, anxious hands. He knew that if anything were to happen to him, the recipe and the legacy would survive, hidden in plain sight among the clutter of his modest home. At the same time, whispers of financial strain had begun to circulate around Café Rue. The once bustling bistro with its checkered tablecloths and golden glow now echoed with uncertainty. Staff exchanged worried glances and regulars noticed the subtle tension in the air, the way Jean-Luc lingered a little longer at the window, lost in thought. The restaurant business was notoriously tough, and even the most talented chefs weren't immune to its challenges. Rising costs, dwindling customers, and the relentless pressure to innovate weighed heavily on Jean-Luc's shoulders. Each night, as he closed up, he wondered how much longer he could keep the doors open, and what sacrifices might be required to save the place he loved. Jean-Luc had been receiving visits from men in sharp suits, their faces grim, their conversations hushed but intense. They spoke in coded language about debts and deadlines, about opportunities and risks. Each visit left Jean-Luc more anxious, the weight of his secret and his struggles growing heavier with every passing day. In the quiet of his kitchen, he wondered if the sauce that had sustained his family for generations might now be the only thing that could save him. He'd been acting strange all week, confided Marie, the pastry chef and Jean-Luc's closest confidant at the restaurant. She was a woman who spoke in flourishes, her hands always moving as if conducting an orchestra of flavors. Preoccupied, distant, like his mind was a million miles away. Antoine, the sous chef, a burly man with a thick mustache and a dry wit, agreed. He snapped at me twice this week. Twice. Jean-Luc never snaps. The kitchen staff, a tight-knit group who considered themselves more family than colleagues, buzzed with worry. Jean-Luc was their rock, their leader, their mentor. His absence left a void, a hollowness that went beyond the missing orders and the silent stovetop. It was Antoine who first noticed something was amiss. Jean-Luc was always punctual, a stickler for time, yet he was nowhere to be found as the dinner rush approached. Calls to his cell phone went straight to voicemail. His apartment, a small, tidy studio above a bookshop in the West Village, was empty. The familiar scent of herbs and spices lingered, but Jean-Luc was gone. The police were called. Detective Ramirez, a woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, arrived, her notepad at the ready. The investigation began, a slow, methodical process of piecing together the puzzle of Jean-Luc's disappearance. Days turned into weeks, each one a bitter herb in the stew of uncertainty. The police investigation, much like a complex reduction sauce, simmered slowly, yielding tantalizing hints but no concrete answers. Detective Ramirez, a woman who appreciated the finer points of a well-crafted dish, approached the case with a methodical palate, savoring every detail, every clue. She interviewed the staff, her questions precise, her gaze unwavering. She scoured Jean-Luc's apartment, her fingers tracing the spines of his cookbooks, her eyes scanning through his financial records. The recipe book was gone, vanished like steam from a perfectly cooked soufflé. Just when the trail seemed to have gone cold, and the case appeared destined to join the ranks of unsolved culinary mysteries, a faint glimmer of hope emerged from the shadows. Detective Ramirez, who had spent countless hours poring over every detail, refused to let the puzzle defeat him. He returned to the scene, retracing his steps, searching for anything that might have been overlooked in the chaos of the investigation. It was during a late-night review of Jean-Luc's financial records that Ramirez stumbled upon something odd, a discrepancy so small it could have easily been missed by a less meticulous eye. The numbers didn't quite add up, and a few transactions seemed out of place, almost as if someone had tried to hide them in plain sight. It was subtle, a whisper of inconsistency in the symphony of numbers, but it was enough to catch Ramirez's attention. He circled the entries, his mind racing with possibilities. What could these small, regular payments mean? Who was behind them? And why? Digging deeper, Ramirez traced the transactions to a series of wire transfers, each one modest but together forming a steady stream of money flowing out of the restaurant's accounts. The destination was an offshore account, cleverly disguised and difficult to trace, but not impossible for a determined detective. The breakthrough came when the name attached to the account was revealed: Antoine. The trusted sous chef, the man who had stood by Jean-Luc's side for years, was suddenly at the center of the investigation. The sous chef, the seemingly loyal friend, had been embezzling from Jean-Luc, siphoning off funds over months, perhaps even years. The motive soon became clear. Antoine was deeply in debt, his secret gambling habits spiraling out of control. The stolen money was fueling his addiction, and the pressure was mounting. When Jean-Luc discovered the truth, the confrontation between the two men was inevitable. Antoine, desperate and cornered, saw his world collapsing. The kitchen, once a place of creativity and camaraderie, became the stage for a tense and emotional showdown. The confrontation escalated quickly, emotions boiling over as accusations flew. In the heat of the moment, a struggle broke out, and in a tragic twist, what began as a desperate attempt to cover up a crime ended in irreversible loss. The sauce, the legendary recipe that had captivated so many, turned out to be nothing more than a red herring, a clever distraction from the real crime. The true motive was greed, not culinary rivalry. Yet, in his desperation, Antoine had also stolen the recipe, hoping to sell it on the black market for a small fortune. He believed it would be his ticket out of debt, but it only deepened his troubles. Justice, like a perfectly timed flambe, was served with precision. The evidence was overwhelming and the truth could no longer be hidden. Antoine was arrested, the stolen funds were recovered, and Jean-Luc's legacy, though forever marked by tragedy, was ultimately preserved. The restaurant community mourned the loss, but found solace in the truth finally coming to light, and the hope that justice would bring some measure of peace.
Disclaimer: the crime stories shared on this channel are fictional and created purely for entertainment purposes. Viewer discretion is advised, as the themes may still include sensitive or suspenseful content. Watch as I bring you thrilling tales well. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss an upload.